What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Philip Michael. Welcome to Sliding in the DMs with your host, being me, Philip Michael. Let's get right to it.
Question number one from Twitter. What are some of the misconceptions when it comes to real estate investing?
Misconceptions when it comes to real estate investing. It's a pretty big question because real estate on its own is just a category that's so broad, and people conflate the housing market with the real estate market, meaning commercial real estate, meaning investment properties. So it's two totally different things. It's like saying liquids and going water and Coke. It's just such a broad category. And one of the things, though, with that out the way, one of the things that I see that people mistake and sort of get wrong about real estate is that it requires a lot of money to get started. And I'm not talking about just, doing flips with $0 down and you find a buyer who's desperate, a seller that's desperate, and you find a buyer that has money and you have to facilitate that transaction. You have no clue what you're doing before you know it. It never happens. No, not what I'm talking about. In reality, I just posted this, I think this morning on my Instagram, and it said, or whenever this airs, the other day. And the title was How to Own an Investment Property for $3,500, right? Now, there's a thing called FHA. This is how I started myself, where the banks will lend you 96.5% of the purchase price, meaning you only have to come up with 3.5% of the purchase price. Now, let's say you have a duplex or a three-family property somewhere. You can get that I've seen that in Atlanta. I've seen that in Florida. I've seen that in New York, not New York City, obviously, but in Rochester. I've seen it many places. You can go look it up. Go on redfin.com, go on loopnet.com. Go look at what the purchase price is. Now, you just do the math. 3.5% of the purchase price. Let's say it's $100,000. That's $3,500. Now, with that, you can actually have a property with 3 apartments in it. You rent out 2 of them. Then you live in, that's a requirement of the FHA. You have to live in one, which means let's say you're paying $500 a month on your mortgage. Don't equate the math because I'm just throwing out numbers here. $500 a month on your mortgage. And your tenants are paying you $500 each. Now, again, let's remove expenses here. I'm just saying this for the sake of math. You have $1,000 coming in. You have $500 that need to go out. So you're actually making $500 and you're living there rent-free. And that's with $3,500. You have that in addition to, number one, removing the number one expenditure from your personal life, which is rent. That's out the way. 2, you get extra income in an ideal scenario. So that's number 2, benefit number 2. And also because land and property is in finite supply, they're not going to make any more land unless we somehow get to Mars, in which case there's a big transportational cost that's probably going to make you not want to do that. So the value naturally, what I'm trying to say here, will naturally go up over time. So you've actually acquired an asset. You've gotten an asset that will go up in value over time. You'll live rent free and you'll make some money from it. So that's one of the things that people get about real estate, that it actually requires a lot of money to get started. It really doesn't. I started with one just like that in April of 2016. Put down 3.5%. That went up by like 500K, and that was that's a great scenario, obviously, but 500K plus. And then from there, I was able to do more deals like that. And before you know it, you actually have a portfolio. And long story short, this is less than 5 years later. I'm developing around 500 apartments. I have 1,500 plus apartments right now. And we have a portfolio that is like, we have a pipeline of $500 million. And that comes from that one thing alone. And I started with $79. That I saved up to $10,000, got the FHA, and here we are. And as you can see, it is nothing special about me. So that's what I would say. It doesn't require that much to get started. So just go for it. Next.
All right, question number 2. What should I invest in to get a good percentage of return on a monthly basis?
Well, that all depends, because one of the best ways that you can get a steady cash yield historically has been through bonds. A bond is basically, so you have what's called securities. Securities is basically taking something that is chopping up shares of things into a company, for instance, that people can now buy into. Let's say you have a company that is worth $100,000 and you want to get a partner, or you want to get investors, or you want to get just micro investors. And you say, look, there's 100,000. We're going to chop this company up into 100,000 shares. Think of a pie even. Chop it up into that piece, and based on the total value of the pie, let's say 100,000 here, and there's 100,000 slices. Each little slice is worth $1 Pretty easy math, right? That's one way. That's called the security of equity, stock ownership. Then you have the other one, which is like debt, a bond, where you give your money to somebody who then agrees to pay you interest over a period of time. Now, you can't just ask for the money back. That's the whole point. Then you have to pay a penalty, and they will pay you this over time. Now, the problem with bonds right now is that there's so much money being pumped into the economy that the dollar is losing its value. So therefore, if you have a 10-year bond, let's say you have $1,000 and it pays you 10% every year. Now, if inflation is going to rob that principal, that means the initial amount that you invested. By the time you get it back, the buying power of that principal, it'll still say 1,000. And let's say for the sake of argument again, $1,000 today can buy you 1,000 water bottles. In 10 years, it may only be able to buy you 500 water bottles. See the problem? You see the problem there? Even though you get the cash yield monthly, if you add that up along with the principal, it probably will be worth, you will have made less money, than you probably came in with. So that's probably not a good idea in an inflation environment. That said, that is one way. Another way you can get a cash yield is if you have a real estate property. Rental income. That's passive income, cash flow. There are a number of investment vehicles where you can do that. You can invest into people that own property that are then selling stock, just like I was explaining, and they can pay you a cash yield. So there's a number of things out there. There are stocks that are publicly traded that pay a dividend. Now, the dividends are kind of low, so they're not going to be that much to begin with. But as you begin to grow your investment account, those little dividends add up. Pennies count. They add up over time. And if you don't believe me, just simply go Google the whole thing, the whole visual of a penny doubled a day for 30 days. And you're going to see the effect of compound interest. And you're going to see that in the first 25, 26 days, that penny will be worth like not a lot, but by the end, once you get towards the tail end, it'll be worth millions. That's the effect of compound interest. Don't want to get too much into it right now. Just look into it. But again, it all counts, so it's better to just get started. But a good cash yield, it could be through bonds. I just wouldn't recommend it right now, or into investments like real estate that pay you a steady cash yield. Hope that makes sense.
All right, last question from Instagram.
Uh-huh.
I really want to quit my job and start a business of my own. How do I get the motivation to make the leap?
All right, that's a good question. And I don't mean to laugh to dismiss your question or to mock it in any type of way, but the motivation, you have to really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that you're really motivated for? Is it that you don't like your job and it's a pain in the butt? And that's the reason that you want to start a business, because you want to get away from your job? Or is it because you have a true passion and you just want to take your passion and make it your life? Because think about this. Contrary to what you may think, entrepreneurship is not glamorous. It is not pleasant. It is not like you see on Instagram, these people standing in front of their cars, working from a big swimming pool by the beach in Mexico. This is not how things work. It's a grind. It's 24, 36, 48 months of living off practically nothing. And then you hit that inflection point where things take off and wow, you're there. And then you really, truly gain a new appreciation for what it takes to actually accomplish stuff and make something happen on your own. That said, if it is an issue, in fact, of you not liking your job, go find another one. And if you go, oh my God, there's not another job right now. All right, think of your job as your seed fund. You have to go there to make your money, stack your bread, right? Then see what your true passion is. If you don't know what it is, look inside yourself, find out what it is, and find a way to monetize it somehow. There's never been an easier time to monetize something than this very moment. You can find ways to make money off of practically anything. You can, figure out what you're good at. Find a way to monetize that. See if there's a demand for it. See if there's a market for it. That doesn't work, try something. Find a way to get another income stream. And then once you have that, you can see when that goes to the point where it can replace your day job, you have effectively accomplished what you set out to do before worrying about the motivation to actually get that done, or jumping into it for the wrong reasons, or being afraid of not having the money to sustain you while you just take that leap of faith. So that's what I would say. Just treat your job, I would say, as your seed fund. Find a way to unearth your passion. If you know what it is already, figure out how to monetize it in some capacity. If you don't know how, there's YouTube University and there's Google University, the new Ivy League. Just go right there, and figure it out. And trust me, it'll work out. Just give yourself 36 months of discipline, dedication, application, be open-minded. Look at people that are doing what you're doing, that are doing what you seek to do. Find new people around you that are like you. You know, motivation is infectious. If you're around doers, you'll become one yourself. If you're around slackers and last placers, well, you'll become that. So audit your circle and do that. All these things I just said, that's literally the recipe right there. So I hope that's helpful. Yeah, we out? We good? All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to Sliding in the DMs, a.k.a. Ask Philip. If you have any questions, of course, just hit us up on Bo TV, any platform that you can think of. There might be a new platform next week. If there is, and they close another one, we'll be there too. So just hit me, slide into the DMs, and if your question is good, I'll drop it right here and answer it. Until next time, I'm out of here.